Hi, Jeff at Tone. Hey, how's it going today? Well, it's Friday. You know what that means. First, I'm sorry I missed getting last week's episode done. I had to make a last minute dash to buy some vintage speakers off in Reno, Nevada. So you'll be hearing about these soon. It was a pretty exciting trip. Listened to a lot of music. It was a quick 1,200-mile journey. As always, our show's presented by the folks at Vera-Fi Audio and YG Acoustics. So there's our shameless self-promotion for the day. On to the episode. You're going to laugh. Get the Knack. Now, I know you're probably all having this giant groan, and I've probably lost credibility with so many of you. Maybe I never had any anyway, but whatever. This record came out in 79. Again, I was I was just starting to get into power pop. I was a big Cheap Trick fan. I was a big Star fan. This came out, hit the radio. Those of us that remember My Sharona and Good Girls Don't, we all probably had that same groan. This was kind of cheesy power pop, and they even did the kind of semi Beatles riff. When you saw them on MTV doing My Sharona, they did kind of the rip off on the Beatles stage on Ed Sullivan, which was, at the time was kind of cheeky. But, years later, this record has just slowly crept into my consciousness, into my subconsciousness. And, it's one of those records that it won't go away. And, I still really like it now way more than I did then. And it just always kind of puts a smile on my face and reminds me of, a much simpler time back in 1979. But yet, musically, the playing is great. The vocals, the harmonies are really tight on this. And the arrangements are good, too. And I mean, at first glance, it's easy to think of these guys as a Beatles knockoff or even a Cheap Trick knockoff. But it's still a great record. It's an especially good record if you have a convertible, driving around with the top down on a sunny day, cranking up My Sharona. There's a lot worse things you could do. So, hey, until next week, check this out. Again, this one is a MoFi copy, and it sounds fantastic. They also did this on SACD. I'm pretty sure you can still get both of them. I actually have the original vinyl, too, and I compared them, and quite honestly, the original is pretty compressed, pretty no big deal, but it's pretty dynamic on the MoFi. So, and again, just to remind you, Shi y Album Fridays is always about musical guilty pleasures. It's never about bad records. And I have to say, Get the Knack is probably one of my biggest musical guilty pleasures. Till next week, thanks for dropping by.